Now, we met back in March of 10 to do a lot of the same things that you guys did in this particular exercise, C1 and C2. It was all of the HRSC directors, some of their deputies, and all of the principals, the key program managers at OCHR, and it was also the senior executives. We were all in the room. And we had a lot of discussion about how we were going to come up with what it was that we wanted to do to change. We had, I think, about 35 there. Yes. A list of about 35 things that we've come up with that we've tried to narrow it down. We got down to about 20. We actually spent about at least a half day on it. We want to be able to show you and narrow it down to the 6 beliefs that we came up with by telling you some stories. And I want you to know that the statements that we're going to come up with are not how things are today, but they're statements of what we think we need to work on and how we need to act in order to achieve the desired result. So remember, everything is going to tie back to the desired result. So we actually narrowed it down from 35 to 6. We did that through a lot of heavy negotiations, going back and forth, incorporating some of the 35 into smaller groups, but we actually worked on about a half a day to come up with it. We also worked together to draft a short belief statement that supports what that belief was. So if you don't mind, now I'd like to take you through the beliefs and
here's what Celebrate Success looks like to me. You will know over a 2.5-year period, we did convert over 11,000 employees into NSPS. OCHR was able to report that 98% plus accuracy rate was across all the centers. As a result, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy was recognized for that. And we had the honor of that rolling downhill because OCHR communicated that to us. We were able to recognize our employees, and part of that recognition in some cases was monetary award. But I think the biggest part of celebrating that success was when Tim could get up and say, this is what we did, this is how we did it, thank you all. And that's what Celebrate Success looks like.
And remember, I told you, we spent probably a half day on coming up with all of these things. And initially, we had 35 of these that we've actually condensed down. So let's take a look at delivery results. I seek and provide clear understanding of what success looks like. What stands out in that? What stands out in that statement? Yeah, as a matter of fact, what stands out in all of them? How about collaborate? I tell you what, somebody read collaborate. Let me pick somebody. Read that out aloud. Read that out. Yeah.
I cross boundaries to collaborate and engage the appropriate talent and stakeholders.
So what stands out in that? Crossing boundaries. Crossing boundaries. Did we hear a lot of discussion about crossing boundaries here? Understanding what this team does, this team having an understanding of what happens here, processing, staffing. Someone talked about staying within your silo, sometimes getting outside of your silo to understand what's happening in the environment. You have to cross boundaries to be able to collaborate. What else is there? The theme about communication, and I saw that come up in several different examples. We also had that in several different examples, and you'll actually see that here. We talked about speaking out and providing candid communication. But also, when we talked about being responsive and respecting the roles, we had a communication conversation then. Understanding what I'm asking for, understanding what it is that I need back and forth. A lot of conversation about communication in that. You ever think sometimes, you know, I know when I have conversations with you guys, and one of the clear pictures I get is doing exit interviews. When people leave, I ask certain questions, and I always ask the question, would you like to tell me something that you don't think that I know? Yeah, get a lot of interesting responses here, but you ever get the feeling sometimes that, you know, the leaders just don't get it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, we did the same thing almost that you guys did. I think we recognize a lot of the same issues that we have in our organization that you guys do. But sometimes you get the feeling that you just don't get it, right? I think we came pretty close. What do you think? So are you willing to own these? Are you willing to own these? Good. Let me see you raise your hand if you're willing to own. Yeah.
Perfect. Give Tim a hand.